Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. Hope you all are fine. Let's start our first hero, which is First Year at Harrow by Winston Churchill. This is our second year English compulsory and we are on our first chapter from Heroes. Let's study. So first see who is the author of this chapter. Full name is Sir Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill, and he is one of the most influential personalities of the 20th century. He remained the Prime Minister of United Kingdom from 1940 to 1945 and again from 1951 to 1955. And he played a very crucial role in the England's victory in World War II. He was an army officer, painting artist, historian, writer, and he was educated in Harrow School and Royal Military College, Sandhurst. He wrote some notable books as well. The first one was The Second World War, and the next one was A History of the English-Speaking Peoples. He wrote one autobiography as well, and its name was My Early Life, and this autobiography was published in 1930, and First Year at Harrow is an extract from this book. He was a wonderful orator as well, and several volumes of Churchill's speeches were published. Blood, Sweat and Tears won the Life magazine's list of the 100 outstanding books of 1924 to 1944. And he was knighted. He was given the title of Sir in 1953, and he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1953 as well. So now let's move towards our chapter and we see the summary or the key points. The writer gets a chance to study at Harrow Public School, and he seems to be afraid of the examination. He is interested in history, poetry and essay writing, and examiners on the other hand were biased in favor of Latin and mathematics. Entrance examination at Harrow Institute is there, and Churchill went to appear in the entrance examination at Harrow, but he could not perform well in the paper of Latin prose. And how did he attempt his Latin paper? First he wrote his name on top of the paper, then he mentioned question number 1, and then he put a bracket around it as you see on the screen, and then unknowingly a blot and several smudges fell on the paper. He did not know where these things come from, and he was so amazed that he kept gazing at this sad spectacle for 2 hours. And afterwards his paper was collected with others and put on the headmaster's table. And who was headmaster? He was Mr. Weldon. Let's see what sort of man he was. A man capable of looking beneath the surface of the things, because as we see that Churchill had not attempted a single question, he did not do anything, he did not write even a word on the paper, yet Mr. Weldon took a broad-minded view of his paper, and not dependent on paper manifestations mean Mr. Weldon was the personality who was not dependent on the text. He rather, by looking at the paper, by looking at the style, he just judged by some way that Churchill was able to perform somewhat good at Harrow. So he granted him admission, and Churchill had the greatest regard for him. So when he was given admission, he was put in the 4th division. As we see that students were graded in different divisions, and the premier position holders went to learn other subjects, high subjects like Latin and Greek, and then came the 1st division, 2nd division, and Churchill was put into 4th division as we see in the bottom. So this situation was very much embarrassing for him, as Churchill was placed in the lowest division. His full name was Spencer Churchill, and the school list displayed his name in the bottom. And the starting alphabet of his name, which was S, it could not even benefit him much. In the school list, his name occurred at the third last position, and the last two candidates didn't turn up, so he became the last name in the merit. And now see that there is a comparison between Churchill and the bright boys. The brilliant students learned Greek and Latin, but Churchill was taught only English, being considered a dull boy. Churchill was taught English and he was not given a chance to learn Greek and Latin and the high things like that, but he was considered a dunce or a dull boy, and he was taught only English, which was obviously their first language. And who was the teacher? Let's read about the teacher who was given the task of teaching the dull boys English. His name was Mr. Somervell, and he was a teacher. And what sort of description does Churchill give about Mr. Somervell is that he was the most delightful man, charged with the duty of teaching the stupidest boys mere English. So he was a delightful personality, and he was given a charge of teaching mere English to the stupidest boys, mean to the students who weren't capable of learning other things. So this teacher, or this man, Mr. Somervell, knew his job well. He knew how to teach the students. So he used different colored inks to mention the components of an English sentence. He gave them a drill daily. It was a sort of drill to make the students learn English sentences. So what did he do? He just used many different colors. It may be markers or something. He used many different color markers to mention the different components of an English sentence, and hence students learned it very well because he gave them this drill daily. He wrote a big sentence on the board and divided this sentence into its components, and he gave each component a different color. So he had his own style and his own way of teaching or attracting the students. So he gave this drill to the students on daily basis till students learned English parsing thoroughly. What is English parsing? English parsing means that the students learned the structure of English. English parsing, the components, the division of the components of English sentence. So students learned English parsing thoroughly. So the next slide displays the benefit over the clever boys. Churchill remained in that grade for 3 years. After his repeated failure, maybe, he remained in that grade for 3 years. So he learned thrice more than an ordinary student. Even he grew the structure of a British sentence into his bones. He learned English so well because he was thrice given a drill as compared to an ordinary student. So he remained thrice in the same grade, and he thrice got the drill, and till he became skillful enough that the very basic structure of a British sentence got into his bones. And in the practical life, the brilliant boys were no more competent than he was. Even they had to come down to learn English to make their living. So let's conclude. Churchill became biased in favor of learning English. He would make them all learn English first. Then clever ones could go to learn Latin as an honor and Greek as a treat. But he would whip students for not learning English. So now let's see this conclusion. Why he comes on this conclusion, that why he becomes biased in favor of learning English, because when in the practical life, in the after years, he saw the clever students who had learned Greek and Latin in their student life, their ability was of no use in the practical life. It was only English which they had to come down to earn their living or to make their living. So as compared to those boys, Churchill already knew it because he had grasped the English structure very nicely. So this thing gave him so much benefit in his practical life that he became biased. He saw its benefit and he just became of the point of view that it was essential for all the students to learn English first, because this is the thing that is useful in their practical life. So after learning English in a very well manner, the clever ones could go to learn Latin as an honor and Greek as a treat, but he would whip the students only if they will not learn English. So here he concludes and our chapter ends. Now let's go to the exercise. Answer these questions. The very first question is, the writer says that the examiners ask questions which students cannot answer and not those which they can answer. Is the complaint just? Just mean, is the complaint based on justice? Is this complaint right? Now let's see. The writer says that the examiner asks questions which students cannot answer and not those which they can answer. So is this complaint right? No. I think this complaint is not right, because when a question paper comes, I think it is made keeping all sorts of students in mind. It includes certain questions which are easy to attempt by everyone, and there are certain questions which demand the thorough study. So examiners mix up questions. There are easy and difficult both questions, and if the students have prepared for their examination in a very good way, so they can attempt this paper. So now let's go to the next question. What sort of questions are asked by your examiners? So again, our examiners ask both easy and difficult questions. The next is, why did not Churchill do well in examination? So its answer is that Churchill could not do well in the examination because the examiner were biased in favor of mathematics and Latin, whereas Churchill was in favor, rather his favorite subjects were history, poetry and essay writing. He wanted to be examined in these subjects, but examiners were not interested in the examination of these subjects, so their will prevailed obviously, and Churchill could not perform well in the examinations. So the next question is, how did he do his Latin paper? So we have just seen in the slides that how did he do the Latin paper. He received his Latin paper, he just wrote his name on top of the page, and after thinking much, he wrote question number 1, and then he put a bracket around number 1, and then he did not know what relevant he could write on the paper. So he was just looking at his paper, and out of nowhere there came certain blot and different smudges on his paper, and the spectacle was so sad that he kept looking at it for 2 hours. And when the time was over, the teachers picked up his question answer sheet and put it on the headmaster's table. And the next question is, Churchill was taught English at Harrow and not Latin and Greek. Was it a gain or a loss? So in the end, we see in the conclusion that the brilliant boys were taught Latin and Greek in their school life, but Churchill was taught only English. So when all these students came in the practical life, we saw that Churchill was in advantage as compared to those brilliant students, because these brilliant students who had learned Latin and Greek had to come down again to learn an English sentence just to make their living, because in the English society obviously they needed English to speak good and to write good. So as compared to these students, Churchill was really not at loss. Next question is, what good did his 3-year stay at Harrow do him? So what was the benefit of staying for 3 years at Harrow? The benefit was that the essential structure of a British English sentence got into his bones, and he became so perfect, so skillful in the use of English that in the later years it gave him much advantage. The question next is, in after years, how did the knowledge of English stand him in good deal? Again, the similar answer is there, that in the after years, the knowledge of English proved so beneficial for him that he really did well in his practical life as compared to the brilliant students. So now the last question is, write an appreciation or criticism of Churchill's views in regard to the Latin, Greek and English and their value in earning a living. So critical appreciation, or we can write a criticism in the Churchill's views. So Churchill's views are these, that he would make all the students learn English because he saw the benefit of English in the practical life, and he saw that the brilliant students who just put their stamina on learning of Latin and Greeks, but this thing did not give them any benefit in their practical life, because those students had to come down to learn English to make their earning. So he says that all the students must learn English first, and afterwards the brilliant ones can go for learning Latin and Greek. But basically all the students must learn English. This was his point of view. So here our question and answers end, and now we go to the next slide, which exposes the words and explanations. Let's see. First word is inhospitable. Inhospitable means uninviting. Next is invariably. It means always. Next is fancied. Its meaning is liked. Next word is partial. It means had a taste for. Next is display, and meaning is make a show of. Next word is expose, and the meaning is let light on, bring to view. Broad-minded, liberal. Discernment, understanding. Reflection, thought. Relevant, to the point. Smudge, dirty mark. Usher, doorkeeper. Slender, thin, small, poor. Unpretentious, unassuming. Dunce, fool. Components, forming parts of something. Structure, form. So here our lecture ends, and I hope you would have understood and you would have enjoyed this lesson. So just keep on taking its revision and must learn the synonyms as well. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.